One of the things I tell anyone who wants to set a goal is to dream big.
Growing up, I actually wanted to become a lawyer.
Being a lawyer, you have obstacles almost on a daily basis.
Hello and welcome to GEPic Journeys, the lifestyle podcast. Since this is the first episode, I would like to speak a bit about GEPic Journeys. We started this project with the intention of getting interesting people in and speaking about topics that we believe that would be useful for you as you navigate through life. On our first episode, our topic of conversation is career and realizing self-potential. We chose this topic because we believe that many people struggle with deciding what they want to do in life, understanding what they are good at, and the bigger problem, how to make a career out of it. So joining me today is Samita Makumra.
Hi, hello.
Samita, from what I've heard, you have been involved in the 4x4 industry for quite some time, and it's quite rare to forgive me, but it's quite rare to see a female in the 4x4 industry based on the market that we have in Sri Lanka. And to see your success is a great thing. Could you speak a bit about how you got into the industry and how you worked your way up?
Of course, and it's not only you that's been giving me that opinion point of view as well. A lot of many people, when I came into the industry, I was one of the only female people in the industry. But of course, it was a family-oriented business. So obviously, I got involved in the ropes at a very young age. My father got me started from the bottoms up. So I was working in storage, in sales, marketing, and then I climbed up the corporate ladder, I would say, and I'm today a director of Motorkit Private Limited.
Nice. And in addition to this, you also are Master of Ceremonies. Do you see a relation of how being a director at Motorkit has helped you in your I would say...
In my speaking?
Yes.
Absolutely, for sure. I think it helps each other out. I don't think one would exist without the other for me. There've definitely been where the part of a director has given me a lot of benefit in my speaking journey. And the parts that I've played as a speaker has definitely improved me and shaped me and changed me into being the director I am today. So it definitely, I would say, personally, it goes hand in hand.
Thanks. Next, we have the man with two watches. We'll get into that. Denham Pereira.
Hi. Hi, everyone. You want me to give a bit of an intro to me? Obviously, I come from the education sector. As we always tell students when they come to us, they ask us, should we do a bachelor's, should we do a master's? My standard answer is do the general, because then you have a foundation laid. So I consider education to be my foundation. And then we tell that same student, once you do a bachelor's, once you do a master's, try to, pick a different discipline that you specialize in. So even if everything goes for a 6, you have something to fall back on. Similarly, if I take myself and if anyone wants to know what I do as an individual, I'd say education is my main forte, sort of my foundation. But I've taken a liking into several other sectors. And 2018, back in 2018, I started, I don't think it was 2018 when I actually started something separate to what I did, but 2018 is when I actually established something with 3 of my colleagues, which was in the food industry. And over a period of time, I've taken a liking into agriculture, taken a liking into the manufacturing supply chain side of things. But like I said, my foundation is education. And that's what I would say keeps me going. The other sectors are challenges that I take in identifying specializations.
Nice. And finally, joining us today, we have Ashan Stanislaus. His, I would say his reputation precedes himself. He's quite...
First time.
No. He's quite established in the law industry, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, I've been a lawyer for the last 12 years, but then I started my career in the legal field when I was 24. I was fortunate enough to be the secretary to the then Chief Justice at that time. It was a very challenging experience, but a very rewarding experience. And through hard work, I've achieved few positions and few achievements. I'm an academic by myself. I love teaching, and I've been teaching in the university level as a visiting faculty for the last 12 years or so. So I keep this academic side of my in the profession also, because being an academic helps me in the category of practice that I do, and I mainly specialize in contracts in the construction industry.
Thank you. So we'll move on to the questions that we have for today. It'll be in 3 segments, and the first segment is setting powerful career goals. I'd like to start off by asking Denham a question. So Denham, many individuals, they aim to strike a balance between their career goals and, from them not shooting too high. They want it to be realistic, but also at the same time, they don't want to settle for the bare minimum. So what advice would you give them to set realistic and achievable goals?
Well, I should start it. It's not when I say what I have to share. I haven't still achieved what I wanted to achieve, but I'm in the process of achieving it. One of the things I tell anyone who wants to set a goal is to dream big. And at a young age, you have to dream where you want to be, maybe at 45, 50. So you got to aim high. And when you aim high, even if you don't end up achieving that, you'll end up achieving something close to it. For example, if you want to be a billionaire, if you don't end up being a billionaire, when you aim for it, you'll end up being a millionaire. Example. So one of the first things that I tell anyone, and that's what I practice myself, is to aim high. And then the second thing I'd say is, something that I always tell people that I work with. Yes, you could set a goal, you could set a target, but you shouldn't be working towards achieving that target at the end of that year. For example, let's say we have a target for 5 years and we are working towards that target. You got to have mini goals, mini milestones that you work towards that molds you to achieve that end goal. And that's very important, because while you periodically review whether you're heading there or not, and if you are not heading there, then you could divert wherever you want. You could change course to eventually get there. So the second thing I'd say is you got to have mini goals. Third thing, and something I think is very relevant, specifically with the present generation, they see someone successful and they want to be that person overnight, and nothing happens overnight. And something I believe in is if you want to financially be at a certain position, or if you have certain dreams, let's say, for example, I have a personal goal and I have a career goal. Eventually, the career goal facilitates the personal goal, if you look at it. So your career defines how you achieve that. And I'll come in a bit as to personally what my goals are and what's molded me to get there. But where you work, your first job, there are people that are successful entrepreneurs at 18, 19, but I'm speaking to the majority of our viewers today. And you're not going to be an entrepreneur at 19, 20. It's going to take time to get there.
You won't even know what you want sometimes.
Yes, and it's early days. So you work at a company and you consider that company to be a vehicle that drives you through in achieving that achieving the career goal that drives you to the personal goal, if I make sense.
Yeah.
And I'd like to tell a story whilst I share this, a metaphor sort of a thing. There was this guy that was driving down a dark alley. All of a sudden, his vehicle had a breakdown. So it was pitch dark. He had to get down out of the vehicle, and then he had to walk to the nearest place to get help. So whilst walking, he could see this dog barking. And then whilst he was walking, you'd see the dog barking and running towards him. And then he realized this dog is not a normal sized dog, donkey sized dog. And then he's like, okay, there's this huge dog running towards me. How do I escape this? How do I achieve this? So there is this tree that he had to climb. So there's the first branch, the second branch, and the third branch in this tree. He climbs the first branch, he's gone because the dog is a donkey sized dog. Climbs the second branch, he's gone because the dog is a donkey sized dog. The third branch is where he climbs and he gets saved. So if you look at it, he had to climb the first, the second to get to the third. And I call it the donkey dog theory, where you got to aim high, but you got to first climb the first step and the second step to get to the third step. And referring to the third point that I would share in building the career, you got to work somewhere. You have to get that experience right after school. You're not going to get the experience overnight in running a business unless you have someone like Samita who's been molded from small days to run a business, which she's doing well, you know what I'm trying to say. But not everybody has that opportunity. There are people who have it, there are people who don't. So I'm sort of referring to people who won't have that opportunity. You have to find an organization that is the vehicle of yours that gives you the experience, the platform, the foundation. And you need to make sure when you decide that organization that you're going to work with, it gives you what you want in terms of the exposure, the experience, and everything that you want. And it comes to a certain point where you will believe, okay, this organization has given me enough, but I'm still not at my personal goal. I need to have a change in my career goal, so to change my vehicle. Or the organization would realize this guy is better for what he is than what he started. Let's do something different. So one of the key things that the younger generation, I am only 35, so I won't call myself older, but the people coming up should realize is you have to take it step by step. You're not going to achieve your goal overnight. You have to have the mini goals set up, but you have to make sure the organization you work with is giving you the opportunity to achieve that career goal, personal goal sort of thing. Those are the 3 points I'd say. But if I relate that to my personal self, which I'm sure later on I can share, I can explain it to the audience as to how it's benefited me as an individual.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting that you shared that, Dharam. Because the next question that I had for you, Samita, was the role that reflection plays in the whole the goal setting process, right? Because you set a goal, but then say 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line, you have to reflect and look back and see how far you progressed. Do you have a process in place that you usually use to measure your progress?
So an interesting question, man. I know you said, Denham, that I've been groomed from my younger years to handle a business, which is not really true, because growing up, I actually wanted to become a lawyer. Okay. Until I finished my A-levels, I wanted to be a lawyer. But then when I finished my A-levels and I started looking up at the courses and what it takes for me to become a lawyer, I felt the journey was too long. And I've just come out of O-levels, I've just come out of A-levels.
It is.
And I felt like this was a journey that was just not for me. I was eager to grow up, I was eager to start working, and I was eager to show. I would like to say I was a little bit too optimistic about the world. I would like to say, and I would just want to get into it. But then I realized, no, this is not the journey for me. My other bet, on the other hand, was my father's business. Now there was something. It's my mom and my dad has been starting this business from ground up, and we have seen this being developed over the years. And I knew that I wanted to contribute back in at least some way or form. So, because it was what gave us our bread and butter, and it was what put us to school. And I knew I wanted to contribute something to it, and that was the start. It was supposed to be temporary, which turned out to be permanent. Yeah. So, and the thing is, when my father had enough common sense, I was just 19. I was out of school by 18. I finished college by 22, 23. I was out of college. But during those 3 years, I still worked at my office. And my father had enough sense not to put me up on top of the hierarchy. He made me, I did all the grunt work. I was the one coming and taking all the boxes from the stores to the front. Everybody was senior to me. So I had to learn it from ground up. But here's the thing, after a couple of years down the line, my father decided to take me to his meetings. Okay. And here I was with industries, recognizable men and women. And I was just silent. I didn't know what to say. I did not know what to say, what to do. And my father realized this. He knew that I was just keeping quiet because I was not too confident about myself. And the next time he took me, he says, no, I want you to tell something. I want you to start up something. And I did. And I realized, okay, maybe my questions were not that stupid. And I at least got an answer back. And that was the first step I took in being a part of those meetings. Now, here's the thing. After that meeting, I had a little bit of confidence, thinking, okay, you know what? I think I can do this. So self-realization, Melantha, is actually the fact that you have to go out of your way to get the experiences that you need. If you're sitting in a chair and you just think, I'm going to do this, I'm going to somehow do this, it just won't happen because you just don't have that confidence in you. Because thinking is only half of the journey. Yeah. You've also got to get out of that chair and do something that will give you the confidence you need to achieve that goal. And I think that was a major shift for me because with Toastmasters, my speaking abilities and everything, I've realized that, you know what, I have a certain capacity, I have a certain talent. Because you wouldn't believe me, I started speaking in school. I had the amazing opportunity in school where they introduced this to me. And I had a brilliant teacher. And the first time I had to speak about myself, I forgot my name. No joke. And people say, oh my God, no, public speaking is not for me. I'm so shy, I don't want to do this. And I can relate because I get nervous speaking all the time, even today. It's not a walk in the park. I get nervous so much. But from that to where I am today and how confident I've been, I think it's just a matter of you taking yourself in those instances and proving to yourself that you can do something. And that ties in with the self-realization. Like, no, if I can do this, then I can do that. And that is what you need, I feel, to get things started. A lot of people I know, a lot of young people I know, they sit in their tables or chairs at home and they say like, no, I want this. I know I can do it. But that's part of the journey. Because you wouldn't know that you had the power to do it unless you tried. And I think that was what I had learned through all the groomings of my father, the meetings I've had, the speeches that I've given. It all boiled down to this one moment where I thought, okay, one challenge after the other throughout my corporate life, I realized, no, I can do this, I can do that. And that made me think bigger. At this point in life, if I think, okay, I can go a couple of steps further, I know I can do it. I haven't done it, but I know because of the confidence that I've accumulated over the years. So it comes a bit more natural to me. And I think that's what's important. And I think that's what's lacking in a lot of people right now.
I'm going to add something to that. She said she wanted to be a lawyer. So her dream was to be a lawyer. I believe, even though she didn't become a lawyer, because of her liking towards speaking, because lawyers, what they're good at is, correct me if I'm wrong, if they could speak, they could turn things around. And her being an MC, being a speaker, it comes from that dream that she had when she was growing up, saying, I want to be a lawyer. But she realized, look, for me to be the lawyer, the course, the milestone she set, didn't really tally. I'm going to find something else that gives me that same level of fulfillment. That's why she became a speaker.
True enough.
Yeah, and obviously there are challenges that you face, during this process. There are setbacks, and I'm sure all of you all have faced setbacks. So Ashan, can you share some sort of, with an experience preferably, could you share how you overcame certain obstacles that you faced in your career? I'm sure being in the field of law, I'm sure you have had a lot of obstacles that you faced. Could you speak on one of it?
Being a lawyer, you have obstacles almost on a daily basis. First one is the judge.
So you're lucky you didn't go in it.
Second one is your opposing counsel. Third one is your own client. So it's every day is a battle. So you battle with your judge and your opposing counsel, sometimes many opposing counsel. But I want to clarify one thing. Yes, if you're a lawyer, you need to talk, you need to have your speaking abilities, but that's only one part of it. It's like just 30% of it. Law is all about common sense, and your thinking is demonstrated. Your thinking is only, your speaking is just one way of articulating your thinking. That's the game changer in law. Speaking about challenges, I think every professional faces challenges. The first challenge you face is your lack of qualifications. So for that, you have so many other challenges to overcome. Maybe your funds. Now for an example, I know a friend of mine who wanted to study further, and he wanted to invest himself and to do a PhD. But before that, he made the calculations, and it was apparent to him that he'll have to spend about good $20,000. So he needed to have a better job. But then he had to postpone his goal, his lifelong ambition of achieving. And there are so many other challenges also, being a professional. Now, sometimes it's not just about sitting for an exam and getting a qualification. That is just one part of it. When you have a professional qualification, when you have an academic qualification, and to reciprocate that you have a professional qualification, that is not enough to do your practice. I'm talking in terms of the legal profession. Yeah. You need actual hardcore, day-to-day live experience going into a court. Now, the first time I went, I was fortunate enough to appear before the Chief Justice. So in the legal fraternity, there's a tradition that you are groomed under a senior counsel. Unfortunately for me, my senior counsel on that day, for some reason said, I'm not coming. Ashan, you handle this case. Simple case. I just had to say 1 or 2 sentences. I was ready. Huge file. I read the entire file, although it was just 1 sentence. And when the case was taken up, I couldn't speak. And the judge was looking at me. So it was my turn to speak. He looked at me. For some reason, he realized, okay, he's not going to talk. So he gave an order, and that was the end of the matter. So sometimes you may like, and you may be ecstatic about your professional goals, and you may be so into that profession, but then sometimes you are not made for it internally unless you make that change in you. If you don't give yourself that experience and get it in the hard way, you will never achieve your goal in your profession. Second one is, challenges paves the way for setbacks. If you don't overcome a challenge, then it results in a setback. Good thing about a setback is it gives you a measurement of yourself, because if you come back, if you make a comeback from that setback. Now I can give you several examples. In the legal profession, there's a good colleague of mine. He's he was very close to me. He was a fellow academic with me, and he faced brilliant attorney. He did the boring subjects like land law and not the most exciting categories of law. But then suddenly he decided that he was going through some financial difficulties. Of course, that was his thinking. Everybody else in the profession thought that he was doing well because his court appearances and his articulation of his arguments were absolutely brilliant. But then he thought, no, I'm not doing well enough. I'm not branded myself enough. I'm not making enough money. There's no value in what I'm giving to the profession and to my clients. And suddenly he decided, I'm going to go abroad. Suddenly like that. And that was a huge risk. After studying for 7 years, practicing law for almost 10 years, suddenly to dismantle your practice and going and coming back, and if you're trying to build up a practice, that is a nightmare. But you know what, within 2 weeks, he found a job in a very good law firm in Dubai. So he had several challenges and he faced even worse setbacks. But then suddenly he thought, okay, I'm going to change everything. But he took a risk, huge risk. So
He wanted to be satisfied in what
satisfied.
he did. Yeah.
He wanted to be satisfied.
But I'm sure it was a calculated risk.
No, not at all.
It was not.
Not at all calculated. Not
It was
at
a
all.
bold move.
Bold.
I'm sure he had a fallback plan.
Nothing.
So, okay, that's an interesting
So,
thing, I think.
so let me elaborate. He went on a visit visa. And had he not found a job, he would have had to return back. And building up a practice for, let's say, for spending 6 months away, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. So anyway, the takeaway from here is that you face challenges all the time. And if you don't overcome the challenge, it's going to result in a setback. But setbacks are good because it gives you the measurement. That gives you the idea that you can come back, make a comeback. And if you don't make a comeback, then you need to really evaluate yourself and see, okay, this is a setback that I was unable to come back. And your challenge was so severe that you were not prepared to face it. So always be prepared. Your preparation is very important. I would just like to, inform our viewers. I think everybody should read a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Dr. Viktor Frankl. It's a very old book. It was written soon after the World War. So he says, if you know why you are living, you will find the answer how you're going to live your life. So there's a correlation between why and how. Of course, I strongly recommend everybody. It's a very small book. It's about 200 pages or less than that even. And I think you should read it because that talks about suffering, where Dr. Viktor Frankl, him being a doctor himself, a psychologist, had to go through so much of hardships during World War II. I don't want to go into details, but he says, if a man can go through such hardships and live to tell the tale, anyone can do it. So that's the takeaway from this, I think.
Thanks. Thanks, 3 very insightful answers, and I'm sure our viewers will have a takeaway from it. If you enjoyed that video, make sure to like and subscribe to the GEP YouTube channel. And we also have a bunch of very interesting practical short courses which are related to the episodes from the podcast. So stay tuned.